Hello, it's me, Dan. It's been a while since I made a video, and I hope you'll forgive the lighting and my clothing and so on. It's a Sunday evening, I'm sitting at home and I'm about to cook dinner. But the reason I'm doing this now is I've just had a look at some properties that are on the market, purely out of being nosy, and I spotted that there's a house on the market not far from here at all where I am, which is Llanharry's where I live, and the business is in Pontyclun, and it's on the market now for £240,000. This is a house that would have fairly recently have cost you about 160, maybe 150, maybe 170, depends on the time of year, I suppose. But so that's prompted me to think about the cost of a mortgage and is it worth buying right now? So I hope you don't mind having a listen to my thoughts on this, and hopefully it will help you understand a bit about what's happening in the market. Now, I earn a living advising on and arranging people's mortgages, so among other things. So if the property market crashes or people don't want a mortgage, it's not in my interest at all. This said, the last year or two, the market has got a bit beyond ridiculous, really, and I'd like to voice a little caution, I suppose, and give an insight into the costs of buying in the area that I work in and the business is in, which is CF72. But I think the picture's the same in a lot of places across the UK, especially across South Wales, and I live here, so I know this area more than anywhere else. But certainly I've got friends who are living in Lincolnshire saying the same thing, and friends who are down in the southeast and across over in the southeast of England. Anyway, let's pretend that you're looking to buy your first home. So let's say you're first-time buyers, which is who this is mainly aimed at, because people who already own a property, you're going to benefit from the increase as well. So let's say you're a first-time buyer, two of you together, you're looking to buy a home with your partner. Now, you want a 3-bedroom house, as you're thinking you might start a family in a few years, and you're both employed, you earn about perhaps £25,000 each, which seems quite realistic for the area we're in. You've got car finance maybe of about £150 a month each, but no other debts aside maybe a credit card you use paying for fuel and food, and then you pay that off each month. And you've managed to get together about £30,000. Now, not an insignificant amount of money. That could be from your savings, it could be from Help to Buy ISA, lifetime ISA and so on that you've chucked some money into, so you've got a bit of bonus from the government. And you've had a bit of help from maybe mum and dad have gifted you some money, and perhaps great Aunt Norma's died and has left you a few quid as well. So you've got this £30,000 pot between the two of you, 15 grand each, or however it's split, to buy your first house with. If you'll forgive me looking left and right, by the way, I've got some notes because there's a lot of numbers in this, so I want to make sure I get this right for you. So anyway, you've got your £30,000. You're both earning 25 grand. You've got a 150 quid a month car finance. This means you can probably borrow, as a maximum, up to about £225,000 from any high street lender. Some will lend a bit more, some will lend a bit less, but that's about what your maximum borrowing. So what would have happened before this pricing surge, before this last couple of years of sort of madness had happened and prices have surged up so quickly, like we saw sort of before the last crash? Hopefully isn't going to happen again, and I don't think it will in our area, but what's the difference between now and then? So, and whether you want to maybe wait and see just what happens over the next few months. So let's say before the pricing surge, the house you're looking at might have cost you about 160 grand. For that 3-bed semi you're looking at around CF72, can't comment on prices of the rest of the region, but certainly a few years ago, 160 grand would have bought you a fairly decent 3-bed semi-detached house around this area. So you've got £30,000, and let's say you put down a 15% deposit, which is a fairly chunky deposit. That gives you a deposit of £24,000. 15% of 160,000, 24,000. That leaves you perhaps £2,000 for solicitors' costs, surveys, mortgage fees, and so on. Which then you've got left over £30,000, 24,000 deposit, 2,000 for fees, 4 grand as an emergency fund, so what if the car breaks down? Or also you could spend it on buying a sofa, dining table, that kind of thing. Now, if you do that, you buy a house for £160,000, that means that you're going to be paying, with a 24,000 deposit, you're going to be paying about £600 a month over 25 years initially. If you take a 5-year fixed rate, deals that are out there today, they were broadly similar 3 or 4 years ago. And so £600 a month for the first 5 years on this 5 years fixed rate. And then after that, they'd revert to £700. Probably remortgage, but let's keep it simple. So you pay £600 for the first 5 years. Interest rates stay the same. So you go from your initial discounted fixed rate up to the variable rate of 4%. That would be about £700 a month. Now, if you never remortgage, you never miss a payment, and your interest rates don't increase, this is all hypothetical, then your total mortgage cost, you bought this house for 160 grand, you've chucked in 24 grand as deposit, the total cost of that mortgage of 124,000 over 25 years is going to be about 207.5 grand, give or take, if interest rates are as they are now. So that's okay. Feels really chunky, doesn't it, to pay 207,500 for a 124,000 pound mortgage. But just wait, really, I suppose, and that's not bad, because you're borrowing money from a bank for 25 years. So 207.5 grand is what it would cost you, plus your initial deposit of 24 grand. So how about now? How about after this pricing surge we've had? This house I've just seen, I'm not going to say exactly where it is because we're not going to get too bogged down with specifics, but certainly there is a 3-bedroom, semi-detached house on the market now for 240 grand. Nothing spectacular, no ensuite, just a normal 3-bed semi, which would be perfect home for somebody setting up house, planning a family. That's on the market for 240 grand. So now you've still got your £30,000 because unless something dramatic's happened to wages, which I've missed, they haven't surged in the last few years the way house prices has. So you're still on 25 grand a year each, and you've still got your £30,000. That means you can still borrow up to about 225 grand. Now, you can't afford to put down a 15% deposit as you could before because you haven't got 15% of 240,000. You had 15% of 160 as it was. So that means that you're going to have to put down 24 grand, which is only 10%. 24 grand of 160 was 15%. 24 grand of 240,000, that's only 10%. But that leaves you 2 grand for cost still, so that's good. You've got your mortgage fees, solicitors, surveys, that sort of thing, that 2 grand. So you've still got that 4 grand left over. But you haven't, because when you were buying at 160,000, you didn't have to worry about land transaction tax. It's stamp duty in England, broadly the same. The rates are slightly different. But land transaction tax here in Wales kicks in at 180,000. So now you're over that 180,000, which means that you're going to have about just over 2 grand, £2,100 of stamp duty or land transaction tax, LTT bill. So your 4 grand left over after your 24,000 deposit, 2,000 for fees, 2,100 of your 4 grand remaining has gone on tax to the government. You're not going to see that again. So you've got £1,900 then as an emergency fund rather than your 4 grand. And that means that you've got less money to, let's say, use an emergency fund or use for buying a sofa, dining table, chairs, that kind of thing. Also, we were looking at around £600 a month. So we were looking at £600 a month initially, which would revert to £700 if you took the mortgage over 25 years. This way, if you take that mortgage over 25 years, your initial payment is not 600, it's 980. So that's £380 more than it would have been if you'd bought that house for 160, because you've got a smaller deposit, so you're a higher risk, and also you're borrowing a lot more money. So maybe, because we are in the world we're in, you'd take that mortgage over 30 years, not 25 years. It's fine if you're in your early 20s or even up to, let's say 30, 35 years old. Why not take it over 30 years and reduce that cost down? So you're going from 600, 25 years before the price surge, 980 after the price surge over that 25 years. Let's stretch that out to 30 years, brings it down to 860, which is still £260 more than before the surge. Now, after your fixed rate ends, you're not paying 860 anymore. You'd be paying about £1,000 a month, give or take, if interest rates are around the 4% mark. So that's a fairly chunky amount out of your monthly income. If you've got 25 grand a month each of income, that probably means you're taking home between £1,500 £1,600 a month, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less, depends on your pension and so on. But that's £1 grand a month, assuming, of course, interest rates are at 4%, which is what most banks' variable rates are around there, 3.5% to 4.5%. Now, that means that your total cost, if nothing changes, of buying that same house, but for 240 grand, not 160, it hasn't gone up by 80,000, which is what the price of the house has gone up by, 160 to 240, £80,000 increase. It hasn't gone up by £80,000. The cost to you has gone up significantly more, 150 grand more. Because of all those figures, the total cost of that mortgage over 30 years, you borrow more money and for longer and at a higher rate of interest because you've got a smaller deposit initially, it's going to be about £359,000. You see now I've got these notes to look back to. I was never going to remember all these numbers. Before the pandemic, your total mortgage cost, buying for 160, 24 grand deposit, 207.5 grand plus your deposit. Now you're looking at 359 grand plus your deposit. Same house. It's a huge increase. So the other thing which we've got to keep in mind is what happens if interest rates go up? We're in a period of sustained low interest rates. Now, interest rates at the minute, as I said, our banks' standard variable rates are around 4%. You can pick between sort of 3.2, 3.3, and some of the subprime lenders are up to about 4 or 5, 6% or even more. But let's just say high streets are around 4%. If that changes and goes up to about 6%, which is by no means the maximum they could reach, and by no means beyond the realms of possibility, in the first scenario, you bought pre-pandemic, which you didn't, or maybe you did and you're watching this in your house, which you bought for 160 grand. Go you. Pre-pandemic, you'd bought, those payments would go up from, on that standard variable rate, from 700 quid a month over that 25-year term after your 5-year fixed rate to about 875. So you're going from 7 to 875. But in the latter scenario, your payments over 30 years for that same house at 6% interest are going to be £1,300. That's one of you paying all your salary for the mortgage. This doesn't seem quite right to me. So now, what we're looking at here is a bit hypothetical, but it is based in reality. We are currently paying 4% standard variable rates with mortgages. That's unheard of. It's really, really low. I've been doing this for about 21 years, and they're ridiculously low at the moment. So I think the only way they're going to go is up. They might go down. I don't know. I've not got a crystal ball, but they might go up. They might go down. So £1,300 because you bought 3 or 4 years later, compared to 875, and you're paying it for 5 more years. This is what I want to highlight to you. Now, I'm not for a moment suggesting that you shouldn't buy a home. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. Interest rates are historically low. They might increase, but they might stay this way. Not with a crystal ball. I want to work with anybody who wants to get a mortgage through me for the rest of my career and my life. I mean, I'm 43 now. I know you're thinking I look younger, but that means I've got another 30 years or so of working ahead of me. And my intention is to work within mortgages and probably within the CF72 area, all being well. So it's important that you trust me and you know that I'm giving you all the information that you need to make an informed decision. So everyone who works with me, by the way, that's Lisa, Jess, Ellie, they only want to do what's right for you as well. So if you want to talk through any of this in more detail, give us a bell. It's 01443 230 670. Pop us a message through the Facebook page that this video has been linked to. Yeah, this isn't all about doom and gloom. It's just about saying, have a think about it. So whereas you might be thinking, we really want to buy a house, we really want to buy a house right now, if you think house prices are going to keep going up and up and up and up and up without any break, maybe now is the time to buy. If you think we're on this hypothetical scenario, we're earning 25 grand a year each, if interest rates go up to 6%, that's quite realistic. We're happy to pay £1,300 a month. Go ahead and buy a house. If you think if they went up further, our pay will have increased, we're going to have pay rises and so on, we're going to hopefully get promoted and maybe change job, change career and develop as our lives go on, we'll have more money. Go ahead and buy a house. My concern is for people who are thinking, I wonder if prices are going to drop back a bit. I wonder if maybe we hang on and get that bigger deposit. So we've got 15% of the new purchase price of 240 rather than 15% of the pre-surge price. I wonder if maybe it's worth hanging on a bit if you're in that camp, in the wonder what's going to happen camp, rather than the I think interest rates are going to stay low and house prices are going to keep increasing camp. I don't know which of those two camps I'm in, to be honest. I'm in the very, very fortunate position that I bought my house, which isn't a 3-bed semi, it's a 2-bed semi, and I'm living in Lanharry and I'm very happy here. I don't intend to move for the foreseeable future. But certainly this house now, when I bought it, it was £125,000. I bought from Landmore, by Landmore Homes, by the way. Very happy with this. It's now worth probably 170, and that's only 6.5, 7 years later, which I'm not convinced that that kind of 50% price increase, nearly 50% price increase in 6 years, is ever so sustainable. So just be cautious, and yeah, don't let me put you off buying a home. By all means, don't think for a second I'm trying to put you off buying a home, because I'd be out of business if nobody bought a house. What am I going to do for a living? So yeah, selfishly, I want you to buy a house, but I want to do so with you knowing all the risks. Anyway, sorry, I've waffled on. This has been a very long video now. We're coming at 15 minutes. I hope you've had a great weekend. I hope this has made sense. I'm going to try and put some form of abbreviated splurge that I've talked about in the comment next to this video, so you've got a chance to have a read through and look through those figures rather than scribble them down and watch all this rubbish I've been spouting at you again. And yeah, so stay healthy, stay well, stay safe, be kind, all that good stuff, and I'll catch up with you soon. Take care. Cheers all.